Now, I'm now going to turn this conversation over to my colleague, Julia Manchester. Julia, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Steve. My next guests are Andrei Cherny and Joe Sanberg, the co-founders of Aspiration, a green online financial firm with a conscious and plan, they say, to help save our planet. Andrei and Joe, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so, Andrei, I'll start with you. Tell us and our audience what Aspiration is exactly and how it differs from conventional financial institutions.
Yeah, look, as you've been talking about all day, there is this huge shift towards people wanting to and demanding options across the board in all aspects of their lives built around sustainability. You saw in that previous conversation what's happening in the grocery store. And we see that about a third of Americans are conscious consumers, people who are thinking about ethics, people who are thinking about environmental sustainability as they're deciding what kind of lettuce to buy or coffee or clothes. And what Aspiration has done is really, among other things, really create a financial institution for them. And we see ourselves really as sustainability as a service, a platform to bring sustainable, positive action into people's daily lives. And we do that through our core account, which replaces their bank account, and on the activities of their debit card. We're about to launch Aspiration Zero, which is our credit card, and a whole host of other financial products that really give people a true alternative to what they would be getting with the big banks. Not only the challenges of having their deposits being used to fund oil and gas drilling and pipelines, but also positive things they can do that empower them as conscious consumers and let them really reduce and even eliminate their carbon footprint just through their daily actions.
Wow. And Joe, this is such a unique idea to a lot of us in the non-financial world. And I just want to ask, how did the idea for Aspiration come about?
Well, Andrei and I have been friends for 25 years. And we came to the same conclusion from different career experiences. Andrei spending time as a financial crimes prosecutor. I spent time early in my career working on Wall Street, and we both realized that there needs to be a reorientation of business, that the way business has been for the last several centuries and arguably millennia is that the more you exploit the planet and the more you hurt people, the more money you make as a business. And the realm of doing good for people and planet has just been relegated to the world of nonprofit. And with no disrespect to nonprofit, which is a critical part of a just society, if we really want to solve the great problems that face us, we need a construct of business that is about being successful by saving the planet and by elevating people. And this is what Andrei and I think of as the good economy. And we believe that Aspiration is developing the operating system for individuals and enterprises to participate in the good economy. And that good economy is an economy where individuals and enterprises are making choices that are at the intersection of their functional needs and what's good for people and planet.
Right. And Joe, on that note, could you talk more about the business model of Aspiration?
Well, it's as Andrei described, sustainability as a service. Sustainability is a service for individuals, and sustainability is a service for enterprises. In the case of individuals, as Andrei noted, the delivery vessel for sustainability includes the everyday financial products that people need to operate in a modern economy. And those delivery vessels make so much sense because following in the legacy of great innovative companies in the past few decades that have opened up big brand new markets, what they've done is they've engaged people in activities that those people didn't ever imagine were part of what they could do in their daily lives. And so what sustainability as a service has to accomplish, the North Star of Aspiration is, how do you make it so that individuals and enterprises can engage in sustainability without trading off their functional needs and the financial benefits they come to expect from financial products? And even more, how do you deliver sustainability so that it's automated and attached to things that people are already doing anyway? And I'd hand it to Andrei to describe, I think as a great case in point, Aspiration's Plant Your Change software, which is engaging big new audiences in everyday tree planting, when you could do those things on your own, but it's until it's presented in a way that's automated that you get big new audiences engaged, and that's what Aspiration has done in that case.
Right. And Andrei, tell me about Aspiration's most recent product. As I understand it, it's a credit card that helps shoppers cut their carbon footprint. Give us some more details.
Well, it's really revolutionary. It's called the Aspiration Zero card, and it doesn't just help you cut your carbon footprint. For the average American, just by using it once a day, it allows you to completely eliminate your carbon footprint. And nothing like that exists on the market. There's all kinds of cards that let you rack up more airline miles or other things like that, but nothing that allows you to take miles off of the planet in a way that, again, is easy and automated and builds into what you're doing on a daily basis in any case. As Joe mentioned, part of what's powering that is Plant Your Change, which we initially introduced for our debit card about a year ago. Then we brought it at plantyourchange.com for any credit card and any debit card. And now we're building Aspiration Zero with that as one of the core features. It allows people to round up their purchase to the nearest dollar and therefore plant a tree with every purchase they make. So if they buy a cup of coffee, they've planted a tree. If they buy a newspaper, they've planted a tree. That's enormous positive impact that people can have for the vast number of people, about 70% of the population that believes in climate change, is concerned about climate change, is alarmed about climate change, and yet doesn't have the tools on a daily basis to do their part to combat it. As I said, we launched it about a year ago. We've planted, just through Plant Your Change, over 5 million trees. We're planting more trees than there are in Central Park every day, and that's just growing.
That's amazing. And what has, I guess, engagement from customers or those, looking to get involved with Aspiration been like? I know it's, still the news about it's getting out there, but what's the reception been? I'll pose this to both of you.
I'll jump in. It's been enormous. We have, along the way, created one of the fastest growing financial institutions in the country. Now have over 4 million members who are signing up, and that's accelerating. We had a million sign up nearly just in the last quarter. And so that's really snowballing. We've seen this across the board. As you've talked about earlier today, you've seen this in other industries, especially amid COVID, where more and more people are thinking about what matters to them, what kind of world they want to live in. They're thinking about that in all these other parts of their lives. And only through Aspiration can they bring that into their daily consumer financial products and into having tools that allow them to make a positive impact with the daily transactions they're making in any case.
And if I may add to that, in the past 6 months, we've seen a surge in the demand by enterprises for Aspiration sustainability services. And I think this is where the opportunity for Aspiration to deliver value to all parts of the good economy is becoming so profound. Sustainability is no longer a nice to have for enterprises. It's increasingly a must have. Mm-hmm. And just this week, the Biden administration has previewed new rules that I think justifiably this economy needs to ensure that we can move at the pace necessary to meet the call of the climate crisis. Well, that's just going to push forward more demand by enterprises for the kinds of sustainability services that Aspiration can offer, that as Aspiration does for the individual, Aspiration can do for the enterprise to help them automatically reduce their carbon footprint and in ways that engage their own workforce and their own customers.
Right. And Joe, we touched on this a little earlier, but how is the Aspiration essentially returning trust within the banking system? We know that there is some distrust, I think, especially from Americans in the banking system, during COVID and such. How is Aspiration reversing this?
Well, I think one of the special elements of Aspiration that dates to the founding when Andrei and I decided to build the company together is the notion of pay what's fair. From the early days, we wanted to create a structure where Aspiration does well when its customers do well. And that architecture in one element is called pay what's fair, which means that for Aspiration accounts, the fees that you pay are the fees you voluntarily choose to pay. I don't think there's any more powerful way to construct trust then as a company to make oneself vulnerable to your customers and say, we're going to give you the power to not pay us if you don't think we're doing a good job. And we're going to trust that if we do a good job, that you're going to treat us right. And Andrei can speak to the sensational response over now 8 years we've seen, where consistently, as the company has grown and grown and grown, we see that most people choose to voluntarily pay because they trust Aspiration to do the right thing by them.
Right, right. And Andrei, excuse me, people are increasingly wanting to invest in ways that align with their values. Obviously, Aspiration speaks to this. Why does it matter where we put our money? I mean, we're talking about climate change and sustainability, but why does this matter going forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. And to your point, we've seen the rise of ESG investing over this past decade. The amount of new investment in ESG strategies doubled in 2019 over 2018. It doubled in 2020 over 2019. This is a fast-moving train. But the reality of the world is there is a relatively small number of Americans who are having a meaningful amount of their economic interaction and their wealth coming from investments. For most people, their financial products are those that they touch every day, that debit card in their wallet, the credit card in their wallet. And the truth is, a lot of people who are even very much climate activists, who care about this issue, who really feel deeply about it, don't realize or don't even think about the fact that when they're depositing their paycheck into their Bank of America account, their Wells Fargo account, it's not sitting in the back of a bank in a vault somewhere. It's, of course, being lent out, and it's used in many, many cases to fund oil and gas pipelines and drilling and everything else that is just increasing the danger that we're facing as a planet. And so step one is moving from the areas where you yourself as a customer are helping to fund and further climate change. Step two is all of the kinds of things that Aspiration does, like Plant Your Change, like making your driving carbon neutral, like allowing you to make daily spending decisions as a consumer based on how the businesses you're shopping at treat the planet and treat people. We have enormous power. American consumers spend $36 billion a day. And while what happens in Wall Street and what happens in the investment world matters, what we do when we make those daily spending decisions, frankly, matters even more.
Right, right. And Joe, I know you have a history in advocating, particularly for California's earned income tax credit for low-income families. How has that work influenced some of the ideals behind Aspiration?
Well, foremost, and this is a value that Andrei and I share to our core, what we do for people and how we choose to treat our customers matters. And the people we're serving aren't numbers in a spreadsheet. Every single one of them is a person with fears and hopes. And whether we serve that person well and help them allay some of their fears and fulfill some of their hopes matters to their life. That every interaction that we have with a customer is for that customer, their world. And I think one of the special elements of Aspiration is reinfusing into the interaction between a financial institution and a customer the humanity that absolutely has always existed on the customer's end. But over the last several decades, as banking has become more commoditized and Wall Streetized, it's lost that humanity to it from the standpoint of how banks treat individuals. But what has continued is the stakes of life that exist for all of the customers that have for too long and by too many institutions been poorly served. And so I think really what's special here that threads across all of the work that Andrei and I do in all parts of our life is understanding how important it is that you remember every person you serve is a person and a human with fears and hopes, and our interaction with them at that moment is their whole world.
Right, right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program today to discuss Aspiration. I'm so happy we got a chance to spread the word about it. We're appreciative for your time.
Thank you for having us. Thanks
Thank
for what
you.
you're doing.
And then I will toss it back to my friend Steve.
Great conversation. I have actually watched what they've been doing for a long time.
Wow.
And I'm jealous that you got to talk to them.